My name is Giles Corran. I'm a writer, restaurant critic and incorrigible gourmet. I'm being joined by Sue Perkins, performer, broadcaster and fussy eater, as we supersize our way through the diets of 6 different eras in British history. Each week we'll be medically tested, dress the part and chomp our way through the best and the worst of Britain's culinary heritage.
Oh, God!
This week, we're going back 150 years to the Victorian era. A time when animal heads were either mounted on the wall or served up on a plate.
You spin that round.
We'll be following in the footsteps of Darwin.
Here's looking at you, Maggot.
Putting a stop to Victorian binge drinking.
All of you! Disgusting! Filled with Lucifer's own sputum!
And celebrating Christmas with a heart attack-inducing feast.
This is one of the most frightening moments of my life to date.
In 1850, Britain was the world superpower, with an empire stretching across a fifth of the globe. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing, bringing us railways, the flushing toilet, and the middle classes. Sue and I are living in the fashionable new suburbs. My manufacturing business is booming, and we're very nouveau riche. I can afford the trappings of aristocracy. I just need to work on the manners.
Very good.
Wow!
Queen Victoria, our glorious empress, lived on a diet of roast beef, ice cream and suet puddings, and was as fat as a house. Patriotic though I am, I don't want a bloater for a wife, so I've sent Sue for a health check.
Hello, Sue. Nice.
Claudia Lauch is a clinical nutritionist and pharmacologist.
So that is 72 centimeters. Now the next thing would be a urine test, and I want you to put that much in, okay?
You are the urine dominatrix. Exactly that much weight. And
I love it.
The average Victorian woman was dead by 48, from cholera, consumption or childbirth. But for Sue, the biggest danger is what's going to be on her plate.
Let's have a look at your nails. Now, in terms of the Victorian diet, there's a lot of meat and a lot of offal. But all that meat is obviously not only a lot of proteins and probably much more than you actually do require, but a lot of saturated fats. So you would be more prone to strokes and heart disease and so on. That fatty diet is just really, really not good. You know?
I wasn't looking forward to it till I met you, and now I feel so excited.
I imagine. But it'll be interesting to see what
will.
happens after.
Sue and I will be enjoying an exceedingly comfortable middle-class lifestyle. With an income of £800 a year, we've got 6 servants, including a cook, a butler and a lady's maid.
Does this make me a Victorian baddie? Like, there's always the baddie in the Sherlock Holmes thing. It's always the bad one who looks like it. It's a bit dastardly and muttly.
As a Victorian lady of leisure, all I have to worry about is keeping my opinions to myself and looking ornamental. Not so easy in a waist-cinching corset.
So I've got, what, at the moment about a sort of 27, 28-inch waist, and we're going to take it down.
Take it down 4 inches with the corset.
Oh, that is quite painful now, you see. I couldn't eat anything now.
How does that feel? Sue?
I'll be packing away up to 3,000 calories a day, 50% more than usual. At least my love handles will be hidden by the fashion for ridiculously big skirts. At 5 foot wide, wearing a crinoline was a hazardous business. Satirical magazine Punch advised husbands to register their wives at the fire insurance office.
Our household cook for the week is the great Sophie Grigson.
Welcome to the table displaying the essential elements of your diet for the next week.
I reckon it's a pretty exciting looking spread. I'm really...
Yeah.
He doesn't look especially unhealthy, does it? There's loads of sort of fruit and vegetables and nice things.
Yeah, we've got some pheasant, actually just shot recently. And one thing that is going to be appearing again and again and again on the table is the mutton. You know that thing? Roast on Sunday, cold on Monday.
Food poisoning on Saturday.
Yeah, but you'd have had tougher stomachs then.
Well, I've got no stomach now.
Mutton rocks. I mean, the lamb they weren't into, presumably.
Mutton does have much more flavour. I've also got some lovely jelly babies.
Oh.
Brand new, wonderful things. So that was very
Now I'll
impressive.
do it with pheasant.
And Christmas, look, lovely. We're having a Dickensian Christmas, lovely Victorian Christmas.
We are indeed going to be heading towards Christmas at the end of the week. A big Christmas feast, Victorian style, something that came in with a passion for the Victorians. They created the Christmas that we have today still.
Yeah.
And I'd just like you to have a little glance over this side. It is a raw, ready to be cooked calf's head.
I might wear that as a mask later.
Or slip it in the foot of Sophie's bed if her cooking displeases you.
There is a whiff of Corleone about it, isn't
It
there?
does have that.
I'll see you shortly.
Meal times changed radically in the 19th century. Breakfast got earlier and dinner got later to accommodate the new urban 9-to-5 working day.
Interesting stuff in the paper today. I noticed, for example, that Madame Tussauds have a new exhibition, my dear. Which we can go and see. New editions. Portrait models of His Late Majesty the King of the Belgians.
He won't last.
No.
They'll replace him with Wayne Rooney one day.
It's only sixpence, though.
8 o'clock. Breakfast. Mutton cutlets and fried potatoes. Smoked mackerel and anchovies. Omelette. Tinned meats. Oysters wrapped in bacon known as angels on horseback. Pears. Oranges.
It looks appetising. Those are nice colours. It's pretty modern. I mean, you could this would be a very fine modern breakfast.
Already roasted mutton chop, yesterday's, I guess. Sliced thin, breaded, fried,
It's really delicious.
bit of parsley. Omelette on the side, I think. That's a nice looking fellow, isn't it?
Do you want some spam?
Yes, a spam is exactly.
Tinned meats were invented for the navy to preserve food over long voyages around the empire, but they quickly found a place as novelty items on fashionable dining tables.
Is that how you're going to be serving it?
Gelatinous piece of processed nastiness do you want?
Oh, I think this one.
Yeah, take one of those.
I'll need to cut it, though.
Big tower.
That is solid nourishment.
I haven't tried this for ages.
That's good. It tastes like slightly of shoes.
Yeah, it tastes crepe sole.
It is
Sort of 1950s sort of, rocker shoes.
You can tell it's about endurance, isn't it? It's about lasting forever rather than tasting that great. I probably already had 2,500 calories this morning. That's really all I need for the day, isn't it? Oh. No, I'm off to work, my dear. You have a good day. I should be back in about 14 hours.
Can you get Cook to get the winch? I need to be lifted from the chair.
With a full belly, I'm ready to go forth and conquer nations, leaving Sue to her duties as a wife, or, as Charles Dickens called her, the ministering angel of domestic bliss. Queen Victoria led the fashion for large families. She married Albert at 21, and by 37 had 9 children. There were plenty of advice manuals for the aspiring middle-class housewife. Top of the bestseller list was Mrs. Beeton, whose book of household management sold 2 million copies in 7 years.
Mrs. Beeton is sort of popularly seen, I suppose, as a sort of Victorian equivalent of Delia Smith, but the comparison isn't particularly valid, bearing in mind that Delia Smith didn't die aged 28 of syphilis. Neither did Mrs. Beeton disport herself on the terraces, 5 sheets to the wind, screaming, "Come on, let's be having you." It's got stuff on etiquette, on running the house, on disciplining the servants, on tending the sick, looking after children, the elderly, and millions of recipes. So it's not a cookbook, really. This is the mothership. This is going to show me how to be the mistress of the house. And she begins as she means to go on, as with the commander of an army, so it is with the mistress of a house.
After a morning's work, a gentleman would generally head to his club for a 3-hour lunch. I'm dining at the Oriental Club, established in 1824 for returning servants of the Empire. This was the heyday of the British Raj. We gave India education and engineering in return for tea and curry. I'm joined by food and wine writer Paul Levy for an authentic Victorian curry, cooked from the 1861 recipes of Richard Terry. He was chef de cuisine at the club, but had never set foot in India.
1 o'clock. Lunch. Beef curry. rabbit curry, vegetable curry, club claret.
Goodness me. Now, Mr. Terry said it's eaten with a fork and a spoon.
Really?
He said, yes, he did say in his book, he said, you probably won't need your knife.
Queen Victoria hated all things spicy. But as Empress of India, she's said to have insisted the royal kitchen prepare a curry every day of the year in case visiting Orientals should drop by.
The chef has followed the instructions in the recipe to the letter, which is why it's so repulsive. I mean, the first thing
You don't like it?
they added curry paste and curry powder to already cooked ingredients instead of frying the curry powder and the curry paste first, as anybody would do today, to take the rawness out.
Well, when this food first came in, it reminded me of curry at school.
Yeah.
And there was always once a week there was curry, and the school dinner ladies, for all their other attributes, which I can't immediately think of, really didn't know anything about cooking. And the curry, always, well, you could smell curry powder. It was the same old lamb, mutton, horse, dog stew that you ever had, but just with the powder.
Yes, with powder added, yeah.
It took another 120 years for Britain to get the hang of it, and for curry to become a national dish. For dessert, we're on more familiar ground with Bakewell pudding.
I've got to say that the idea of eating in a club is just fantastic. It's lovely to go somewhere where there aren't women. It's lovely where there isn't. Yeah, don't you think there's incessant shrewish nattering and grumbling about the food, no, enough of that, not of that, no, one glass if I must, and is there any chocolate on the menu?
Yes.
All that, right, and then there's no children running around, and there's just a bit of peace and quiet. You want to go home once a week to see your wife and create another little eminent Victorian for her to look after. But then, no, back here for a bad curry and a game of pool.
Being stuck at home with Mrs. Beeton has sent Sue into a coma. And Cook into a right tizzy. She's attempting one of Mrs. B's plain family dinner menus.
Oh, it's burst. There we go, number 2 eyeball out. Oh, I really hate Mrs. Beaton. I've got off her in such a big way.
The showpiece of tonight's meal is a boiled calf's head, with brains served as a delicacy on the side. But first, Sophie and her assistant have to extract them.
Yes, that's probably enough. That's probably enough. That's probably all we need to scoop out bits of brain.
Wonderful.
Woohoo! Big brain boy.
A gentleman should never be kept waiting for his dinner. So I've sent the mistress of the house to find out just where it bally is.
Mrs. Beeton said that cleanliness is next to godliness and 2 doors down is punctuality. So, we are waiting. So,
I tell you what, you can always give me a hand in the kitchen. What do you think?
Sully these lily-white hands with the devil's own work.
I've been sullying your gorgeous crinoline. If you could just move it slightly to that side. Thank you.
Well, I feel that I've really put my mark down as head of the household here, and you...
Yeah.
You better watch out.
Yeah, it's nice to see that you're in charge, really, isn't it?
Yes!
8 o'clock, dinner. First course, fried sole in anchovy sauce, mutton curry, sherry.
With dinner an hour late, I'm ravenous. But for Sue, it's delicate portions only. A healthy appetite for food suggested a healthy appetite for sex. Quite improper for the Victorian lady.
So good. Can you not show quite so much enjoyment of the food?
Not allowed to. It's really unsavoury to show any enjoyment of anything.
That's the face I know from my lovemaking. I can see from the fact you've eaten 2 mouthfuls that you absolutely love it. You don't feel the need to talk as well.
The Victorians expected their cook to turn out meals that pleased the eye as much as the palate.
I think we're just going to have to go for major parsley. Parsley coming out of the eyeballs. It's just hard to make something like this look attractive, isn't it? Just see what that looks like. Oh, I don't know. I'm never going to make it look great, am I? Here we are. And I think you'll agree that it was worth waiting a few extra minutes for this magnificent centrepiece here. Now, sir, you won't need to carve it particularly because I think you can just pull meats off and little bits of meat's tucked inside as well. It's a real treat for you.
Won't need to carve it because you're taking it straight back to wherever it came from.
No, sir. I think the flavour will be incomparable.
Yes,
Enjoy.
I'm sure. We won't be able to find anything to compare it to, certainly. Thank you.
Second course. Boiled calf's head, brains in butter and herb sauce, fried calf's ears with tomato sauce, carrots, tipsy cake, claret.
Let me spin that round.
Oh, no, wait a minute, look at that. He's
Flayed.
He'll be laughing on the other side of his face soon.
Oh,
Christ,
dear.
that is his just smirk, isn't it? And there's some teeth.
Take a note,
Oh,
right?
and it's all clanky.
Left occlusal missing. Oh, thank you. I love a cheek.
It's quite... Do you know, I'm beginning to grasp why ladies just out of Mountain just left it behind.
This is the lucky decade for me. For me, that big old head just says power, look at me, macho man. Johnson brains, you might need some.
It smells buttery. It's kind of soppy.
Oh!
What I'd like you to focus on now is what's happened to the back of your teeth. There's a sort of film, a brain film.
Yeah, there is. You're quite right. I've got brain-coated palate.
The bit of brain I had was, what are you doing with those electrodes? No, nothing.
Frugality ruled in the kitchen. Every part of the animal was good for eating, even the calf's ears. Minus the hair, of course.
I have to say, there aren't many things that make me feel queasy in life, but that smell is one of them.
I have to, it's just vile. It's like the worst barnyard smell. Yuck, yuck. I think I'm going to have to put the lid on it. I can't bear it.
And this is ear.
This is ear fritter, yeah.
Oh, it's quite, you know, eerie, quite bouncy.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting texture. Oh, every time you crunch it.
See,
That's the pure cartilage. Yeah, that's serious cartilagey ear. Look, that's like a rubber washer.
Dinner draws to a welcome conclusion with the tipsy cake. A trifle made with stale sponge, custard, almonds and sherry.
How much booze did Chef say she needed, Cook say she needed for this? Do you think she just swilled 3 bottles of rum and given us a dry pudding? Did she say there was booze in it or not?
well, she did, but she had a very red face and she was slurring. I couldn't really understand what she was saying, to be honest.
I was hoping that we might overturn the what I thought was a misconception that the Victorians were all grey and boring and not really into pleasure. And in fact, it's exactly what I'd imagine this self-flagellatory, imperial, trussed-up, sexless bunch of dopeheads to produce. I mean, it's just rubbish. It's just a great big head, and the cake is just made of dry bread. They call it a tipsy cake, and they have a thimbleful of booze, and they call it a tipsy cake. It is a sepia-tinted meal of the worst kind.
I'd love to have an opinion, but I don't.
So, day one, and I've done the best I can. I'm going to try and live this week like a proper Victorian lady. I'm going to be very demure, I'm going to be sickly, I'm going to faint a lot, and I'm just going to have small portions.
I thought I was a nouveau riche. Victorian gentleman, rotund, like Mr. Fezziwig, like Mr. Bumble, whatever But no, I'm just going to waste away. I'm going to scrawn up. I'm going to lose stone after stone. I'm going to bed starving, hungry, nothing but leftovers. Calf's ear. Does it suit me? I think not. Yum.
Today, Sue and I are going in pursuit of leisurely diversions. London's Natural History Museum was built by the Victorians to show off their beloved collections of dead, stuffed animals. The leading zoologist of the time was, of course, Charles Darwin, famous for his theory of evolution. But he didn't just study animals, he developed a bit of a taste for them.
I'm famished.
Yeah, me too. I hope there's a squirrel in here.
Oh.
And there is! They've left the gloves on. So I guess this is supposed to represent the sort of bizarre eating habits of Charles Darwin.
Why have they left the furry feet on? Feel it on your face.
Oh, it's a loving touch. A loving touch.
That's good. That's good
It's
eating.
chickeny.
That's squirrel. That's good eating. It's grey though. It's grey squirrel.
Good. Well, this was Darwin, of course. You've got
That's
the red
a fatty
squirrels.
squirrel. That's a London squirrel. No animal, large or small, was safe from Darwin's voracious and eclectic appetite. We're making do with squirrel, but as a student at Cambridge and a founder member of the Glutton Club, Darwin devoured rare birds, rodents, and, it was rumoured, even a puma. We had this Glutton Club, and they all gathered round and ate things like
Brown owl.
hawk.
Yeah.
Brown owl, I think they didn't like. I think
Didn't
it was
like
stringy.
it. It was stringy. He preferred the pork that went with the brown owl, but it didn't stop him killing the brown owl in the first place.
You
But
want
you're
little
right.
brown owl babies is what you want. Little tasty, little just...
Stop.
Oh, nice.
It's
On a
truly
kebab.
Victorian, though, isn't it? You're right. It's that sort of fascination with rare and beautiful creatures, combined with the desire to kill them.
And eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Candied maggot. Fancy a handful? In the spirit of Darwin, if you're going to eat one, I'll eat one. Here's looking at you, maggot.
Right. About the third nicest thing I've eaten this week. Cultural excursions were one way to fill the hours of leisure. Sport was another.
Oh, it's jab, left hook, right hand. Good combination, yeah.
Boxing had historically been bare-fisted, bloody and illegal. Then along came the Victorians who cleaned it up for gents like me.
Whilst boxing was for chaps only, by the end of the century there was a new and controversial sport that ladies could also enjoy: cycling. The bicycle was impossible to ride side saddle and in a crinoline, so a new fashion was born: bloomers. They were named after their inventor, American postmistress Miss Amelia Bloomer. On a fine day, up to 3,000 cyclists could be seen in Hyde Park, and food manufacturers were quick to exploit the new craze. Stowers advertised its lime cordial as the only healthy beverage that can be safely consumed after cycling.
To the invention of the motorbike.
After all that exercise, we've worked up a stonking appetite. So we've come to London's first ever chippy, where our famous national dish was born.
May I have some haddock and chips, please?
I'll have some plaice. With industrialisation came huge improvements in food preservation and transportation. A catch of fish could be offloaded in Grimsby one day, put on a train and arrive fresh, or nearly fresh, in London the next.
One haddock and chips for you, madam.
Thank you very much.
And one plaice and chips for you, sir.
Aha! Thank you very much.
Enjoy, you have your salt and vinegar there.
Lovely.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
The boom in fried fish is largely to be blamed upon, or indeed we can thank, the Jewish immigration, escaping Polish and Russian Ukrainian pogroms late 19th century, came to London, and because they can't kindle a flame after dusk on the Friday until after dusk on the Saturday for the Sabbath, they would fry up their Sabbath fish on the Friday afternoon, batter it and fry it, which keeps it more or less fresh until the next day.
This is one of the greatest inventions of all ages. It doesn't matter the Victorian.
You're
This
such a woman. What about the electric light bulb?
Yawn.
Today's eating has left me with a lingering taste in my mouth of fish, squirrel and maggot. Right, the thing about this teeth brushing thing is that they've obviously grasped the Victorians with all that eating that brushing your teeth is a good thing. Except they haven't invented toothpaste. What they did use was a mixture of charcoal and honey. And then there's obviously toothpaste in there, isn't it? Well, oh, it's coming up a treat. It's like licking the inside of a real old beehive, I guess, isn't it? Like the carcasses of old bees and all the honey. I've got to get it rid of my mouth. Another 15 more rinses and I'll be fine. Now, they see, today was a day. Today was boxing. Today was exercise. Now I feel good, you see. Now I'm not that excited about the food of the period, but I can clearly see that I would have been a boxer in that period. I'd have mashed them up. And I was quite big. You see, now, when I'm 5'9" and 12 stone, it's not, it's, you know, that's small. 21st century, the 19th century, I'd have been big. Heavyweight, I'd have been Giles Killer Corran. The Victorian dinner party was an ostentatious and competitive occasion. It was a chance for parvenus like us to show off our wealth and good taste, and to do a bit of social climbing. Charles Dickens made fun of this new middle class in Our Mutual Friend, describing Mr. and Mrs. Veneering as brand new people in a brand new house who, like their furniture, smelt a little too much of the workshop. Which was rich, coming from a chav like him. The ultimate social achievement was the procurement of a French chef. So we've kicked Sophie out of the kitchen for the day and brought in Michael Weiss from London's Coq d'Argent.
Presentation was very important. They wanted to show all their guests that they could really cook, and they had some expensive ingredients, and you know they got all those chefs to come to their house, and they wanted them to show their skill, show everything they could, you know, with colours and heights and everything that modern chefs try to do.
This was gastronomic architecture, and the more ornate, the better. A dinner like ours would cost maybe £1,000 in today's money, and we'd have thrown one every week. We're going all out to impress with a 6-course menu designed by Queen Victoria's very own chef, Charles Francatelli.
It's taken us 4 hours work yesterday, and since 11 o'clock this morning, so probably 12 hours to get ready for 6 people, which is a little bit time consuming for a small dinner party for 6.
Because you always toasted the Queen. That was the first toast, always.
Right. Our guests to impress are food historian Ivan Day, writers Matthew Sweet and Ruth Cowan,
That the man of the house would carve some.
and etiquette expert Diana Mather.
But there was an occasion.
Dinner was now being served in a new fashion called à la Russe. Rather than all the dishes being placed on the table at once, they were brought hot from the kitchen in a series of courses, just as they are today.
Godfrey's quieting syrup. I'd use it myself.
Dinner. First course, red deer à la royale, French beans, potato croquettes, claret.
This is absolutely delicious.
It is quite
really
interesting to
is.
see Victorian croquettes, isn't it?
The deer is amazing. It's so tender, amazing. And
I've eaten everything. I mean, that was just so delicious.
would Queen Victoria have eaten it all down, or would she have just sort of poked it about?
Oh, apparently she was an absolute pig.
Yeah, she really rushed the food, and everyone had to stop when she finished. So you'd just be starting off, and she'd eaten the whole of her venison, which meant you had to stop, your plate was cleared away, you went on to the next one, and again, she would eat it very, very quickly.
At what point would it be suitable for the ladies to start screaming, ow, my twisted torso, ow, get this corset
Never
off for the
done
love
it.
of God?
You would never, ever.
Never?
You would faint at this point.
Right.
And then, yes, you could
Oh, very good.
pick her up, and that allows her just... we would
my
then...
hair.
We would then...
Let me
How
squash
much
this
of a
finger
delay
bone.
was that? I've been half passed out for half an hour.
She said pick her up. Can I help you
Hair
up?
anymore.
So then they would actually undo your corsets a little bit to allow you to breathe.
As the claret kicks in upstairs, Michael has his work cut out downstairs. Francatelli's recipes are incredibly elaborate. The next course is pigeon à la duchesse.
We cut the flesh around the bone,
Each tiny bird has to be boned,
and then we pull the bone out, like so.
stuffed with veal forcemeat, and stitched back together.
It's quite labour-intensive job for a dish which I'm quite interesting to see the result, actually. No, but that's
Dipped in bechamel sauce, covered in breadcrumbs, fried, and finally served in more bechamel sauce.
Yeah, this is like the pigeon à la Scotch egg.
Entrees. Pigeons à la duchesse, lamb's tongue with spinach, claret.
It's quite dry, quite difficult to cut, very heavy, but then they would have been used to that.
If you want to get your coat, it's in the hall. The carriages are outside. Our guests are complaining about the food, my dear.
Francatelli, who designed this, of course, left after just a year because it was a nightmare for him, because Albert had a very dodgy stomach, so he only wanted bland food. She liked German bland food too. Buckingham Palace, where he had to work, the kitchens were unrefurbished, they stank, they were very badly equipped. The pay couldn't compare to any of the London clubs. So within a year, he'd upped and gone.
What Hogarth is.
A hostess was judged not only on her food, but on her manners. Which is great news for Sue.
That's superb.
It's
I don't like it.
But if
Don't be so shrewish with our guests.
they have some...
God almighty. How popular is divorce in this period?
I told you the hosts at this dinner party were nouveau.
Yeah.
They don't know how to...
Tell you what,
Park
your buttons there. I tell you, in terms of nouveau, we got our money so recently that it's the cash for the house is still in my
You're
pocket.
behaving like an absolute aristocrat, because that's how they behave.
Thank you, my dear. Absolutely. To the aristocracy.
After guzzling 2 sherries, 4 clarets, and her own body weight in champagne, our hostess is quite indelicately bladdered. And we've still got 2 courses to go.
No, that's very...
Let's do it anyway.
Yeah, who cares?
Let's do what we want.
Roast course. Partridges with truffles. Chicken quenelles. Snipes on liver toast. Snipe heads. Champagne.
Small game birds were the fashionable choice for the roast course. Snipe were tricky little buggers to shoot, rendering them a suitably expensive dish.
There's a head. Now, really, we're supposed to take the beak and suck the head.
Right.
Ivan's gone for it. He's gone for it. Let me know what happens. Are you meant to suck the brain out or crunch the skull?
He's crunching away.
And you pick your teeth with the beak afterwards,
Yes.
yeah?
I think it should be done like autumn.
No, you didn't do that. Boom. That's the actual brain.
the brain.
There's the actual brain.
Oh, little brain.
The last thing that thing thought was, oh, what are those big pointy things going bang bang over there? I'll just flow down and have a look. Bam.
The final course was the showiest of them all. The Victorians loved their fancy moulded desserts. These preposterous creations were generally bought in from posh confectioners. Michael, however, has crafted each of his from scratch.
So I hope with the menu tonight we were able to match Francatelli's delight at the time of the Queen Victoria. And then we had great fun doing the jelly, and that was just pure fun. I don't think it's a delight to eat, but it's pure fun to make and to dress. And I think when you see the guests downstairs will really appreciate the amount of work that's gone into it and the way it looks on the table.
Yes, look at that.
Sorry.
Oh, that looks beautiful.
Entremet. Russian jelly. Claret jelly.
Oh, my word.
Champagne jelly. Rice cake with almonds. Taut frangipan. And the savoury fried salsify and eggs a la tripe.
Amazing.
Francatelli said that all the food wasted in London every night could feed 1,000 families.
Yes.
Oh, it looks inside even more beautiful. You can get drunk on that jelly, I won't touch it. I won't touch it.
Queen Victoria's sweet tooth was shared by her subjects. During her 63-year reign, sugar consumption rocketed from £15 to £90 per person a year as cheap sugar flooded in from the colonies.
When they say pick at your food as a Victorian woman,
I think Sue's about to win
Probably
the
not
best.
quite
Pick
what
up
they
your
meant.
food.
I think you've interpreted that perhaps a little bit literally.
I am picking at it. 9 courses and I've still got a 22-inch waist. Who at this mealtime can say that, eh?
Not me.
No one. No one.
Well, thank heavens for the French, eh? For once I may go to bed reasonably full, although embarrassed by my wife's disgraceful behaviour. Can't hold her booze. Yes, we drank quite a lot, but yes, one should be able to. She will no doubt be taken to the temperance movement fairly soon. Did you see the state of her?
I haven't even gone to bed yet, and already the recrimination has kicked in, and that is terrible. If what you've done hits you before you've even managed to let your subconscious work on it for an evening, that's That's a bad business. Oh dear.
After last night's successes, I'm purging my guilty conscience with a day of charity work. There was a huge army of lady do-gooders, like banking heiress Angela Burdett Coates. She helped found the NSPCC, ran ragged schools and gave over £3 million to good causes. Short of pennies to dish out, I'm getting hands-on, cooking at Whitechapel Mission's soup kitchen, which has been looking after the real Oliver Twists for the last 130 years.
It is quite shocking when you think they queued around the block for it, and it saved their lives.
We served 11,000 of these sort of lunches in 1876, in the first year.
11,000?
11,000. And that's not counting the breakfasts or the evening meal, that was just the lunch.
London's population exploded from 1 to 6 million during the 19th century, with thousands living in slums on a diet of tea and bread. Celebrity chef Alexis Soyer became the people's chef, ditching his job at the exclusive Reform Club to run soup kitchens and design cheap recipes to feed the masses.
If you read out the recipe, I think we'll start with the old beef soup. This was a classic, and this was to feed about 20 people.
First, put 1 ounce of dripping into a saucepan capable of holding 2 gallons of water.
To feed 20 people, I suppose that's a reasonable starting point of fat.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Then the beef came next.
1/4 pound of a leg of beef without bone. Wow.
To feed 20 people.
20 people.
So how would your clients feel about getting this much meat in what's supposedly a beef soup?
I can't believe it was such a small amount.
You cut it up nice and fine so everyone gets a little bit.
To the beef and dripping, you add turnip peelings, leeks and flour. And you end up with this.
It's very salty. It's very, very salty. What else are we going to...
Another staple of the soup kitchen was gruel, otherwise known as porridge.
So do you think this will go down a treat, this?
We serve porridge still to today.
Yeah.
It's usually served now with honey or jam, salt or sugar, and for a few, with all 4.
Whilst my wife whips up the gruel, I'm off to one of London's 41,000 street stalls, where a hot, ready-made meal can be bought for a penny. The big sellers were eel and pea soup, baked potatoes, and sheep's trotters, 22,000 of which were sold every week. I'm taking my life in my hands here, though, as over half the food eaten by the common man was contaminated. Right, well that's a penny dip, and that's sheep's pluck, which is liver, lungs, heart, fried clearly with onions, and served on muffins, which were really popular. It's a kind of pluck McMuffin. That's liver. I don't have any problem with that. I think if you're a poor Victorian street urchin, you would consider yourself lucky to have this. Lots of protein to keep you through the day, go out pickpocketing. Yeah, that's nice. That is. The muffin almost certainly contains gypsum or building plaster, because that's what they adulterated bread with in the Victorian period. Adulteration horrors included lead oxide in sweets and one notorious ice cream sample which was found to contain lice, dog hair and bed bugs. The biggest scandal of all, though, was dressing rotten meat with the fat of fresh meat. Are we certain that the gentleman of my standing would have eaten street food? There was a lot of it about, but I suppose I've probably been visiting a tart and worked out trying to get the smell of syphilis off my breath before I go home to the wife.
Back at the mission, I've got faith in my Alexis Soyer soup.
Afternoon all.
He's said to have saved as many lives through his kitchens as Florence Nightingale did through her wards.
Barley, leek and a bit, just a little bit of beef, but they didn't give out a lot of beef though.
Can I try a little bit, but not so much, please?
Well, I'll tell you what, you say when. Let me know what you think. Okay. It's got pearl barley in it.
The beef soup's going down a treat, but I'm going to have to take the gruel to the masses.
Right, how do you reckon about a bit of gruel? What do you reckon? Is that good?
Little Oliver Twist ate 3 meals of thin gruel a day, with an onion twice a week and half a roll on Sundays. He was one of the lucky ones, as over half of all children born in towns died before the age of 5.
See what you think.
loads of butter in it.
Yeah? You've polished that off?
If there was a bit of sugar in it. There's only the only thing I think that I would say is wrong with it. I could be on a bit twisted.
You could. They quite like them, actually. One woman who hasn't eaten anything solid for about a month, so she's had 2 bowls, really, really likes it. To go out and do stuff and to actually meet people and talk to them and listen to their stories and kind of help them in a way is more nourishing than 1 million calves' heads and 4 billion pigs' trotters and 100,000 squirrels. So it's been really good.
Food was okay today. Wife was a problem. All very well her going off to feed the homeless with her soup. When she came home, she didn't half smell. What to say? I mean, this is 1860 odd. I'm a man of means. I don't want the smell of the poor, the depraved, the hungry, the homeless. I'm not even allowed to vote. I don't want my wife to come home smelling of them and get into my bed.
It's not pork, it's mince.
This morning, we're hoping to walk off the whiff of the poor. We're taking the advice of Dr. Allinson, the famous bread and flour tycoon, who recommended walking for 3 hours a day. The good doctor also claimed that nicotine was a foul and harmful poison, but leading medics insisted smoking was a good way to clear the lungs, and got him struck off.
Back at home, it's time for tea. In the 1850s, spiritualism was all the rage. Even the Queen fell under its spell. The middle classes held table-tipping parties, where mediums were plied with cake in return for raising the spirits of the dead.
I should offer ladies first, of course.
Tea. Victoria sponge. Garibaldi biscuits. Macaroons. Indian tea.
The Victorians kind of liked the idea to be scared. I mean, there was a massive big show at the Lyceum Theatre called Phantasmagoria, where they used to create the Ark of Necromancy on stage, where they'd create ghosts and the dead and be seen to conjure up the dead. Modern day illusionists, really, but the Victorians loved that. Their obsession with death was phenomenal.
Certainly a lot more fun than Starlight Express.
Yes.
I mean, between the two, Phantasmagoria, Starlight Express. So I feel quite full now, so
should we have a go?
I'm ready to contact the dead.
In the bleak midwinter, No, that's the end.
Frosty Wind, maybe.
Frosty Wind. That's hard as iron.
One of the best ways to summon the spirits was with a good old hymn.
Water like a stone.
If there's anyone here, would you please move the table? Anyone of the past residents of this house, would you please move the table?
In the bleak midwinter,
Are you moving so?
Well, only to the time of the...
No, you're moving your hands to the table.
I'm not moving my hands. Don't be mocking me. I'm not moving my hands once.
Did it just move?
I felt an energy change. It was actually a feeling of something tingling behind me.
That'll be
like a wave of tingling on top of my body.
I think my fingers are tingling slightly.
They're tingling?
Mm.
I mean, it's interesting you say that. It's called an energy change, and it sounds so corny, but you can start feeling things on your hands. If you concentrate, and you do feel an energy change, like
I'm just another wave of it.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm getting a bit of something.
Well, that must be you.
Oh, don't be silly. How dare you?
Well, that is you. I mean, obviously, I think what can happen, I think there's a lot of faking going on, and obviously you could have a lot of people under your crinoline, and you'd have
How dare you? I've only got 2.
With all that girly mumbo-jumbo going on at home, I've legged it to the local boozer for a quiet pint and a pie.
There's an awful lot of working class people very close to me, and I'm, don't feel all that comfortable with it. Would I normally, as a gentleman...
you would have loved it. It would be one of the reasons you'd come in. It's part of the excitement of the other. And
oh, my word, you make it...
You would have had sort of lovely little prostitutes, perhaps, walking outside.
At last, I'm a happy Victorian. Beer's 2p a pint, double the strength, and the pubs are open all night.
Well, that is a delicious pint.
Oh, that's good stuff.
But there are those who would stop me drinking it. There is this thing of which I've heard called the temperance movement.
Oh, hell and damnation.
40,000 women signed up to the temperance cause to rid the streets of the demon drink.
Sodom and Gomorrah. The other one. Cite
It was another chance for the middle classes to preach their goody two-shoes values of self-control and denial to the working classes.
Milk is an excellent, excellent alternative to a dry white wine.
I mean, there's a lot of terrible women who are into that sort of thing.
I know.
They're joyless, boot-faced, scrawny, with their big skirts, their little short haircuts, their little glasses, marching up and down outside the pub, telling you what to do and what not to do.
All of you, disgusting, filled with Lucifer's own sputum. It is time to stop drinking. All of you who frequent this house of ill repute, abandon it. Abandon it. Come on, Father, dear Father, come home. The clock in the steeple strikes one. It's time we went to Parliament to stop the drinking trade.
One more drink for the road, a dog's nose.
What's in here?
Gin, Mother's Ruin, cold ale, warm ale.
What's I'm going to have to drink up pretty soon because in 1872 these harridans persuaded Parliament to bring in strict licensing laws and shut our pubs at midnight.
Back to work, there's some hoydens.
Don't say so.
Yes, I must.
You okay, Giles?
Giles? Anyone at home?
Giles?
You see, the pub is not a good invention. Nor was the dog's nose, or the parson's arse, or the 14-pint Guinness Drambuie depth charge shooter with double extra cheese and pie in it. God, I did have cheese with pie in it. Yes, a bad thing, dipsomania. It brought the empire to its knees. It's the same as the Romans without the buggery. Or with the buggery. I don't really recall.
Do you think we'll be all right? I've parked the horse in the mother and infant bay.
That'll be okay.
How long we got? The horse.
Sophie and I have come to our new high street store, Sainsbury's, which first opened in 1869. We're picking up some treats for tomorrow's Christmas feast. New technology was revolutionising our kitchens with the arrival of convenience foods. Brands familiar to us today were first seen on the shelves in Victorian times.
Custard.
Yes.
Mr. Bird invented it because his wife was allergic to eggs.
No one wants an egg-bound Mrs. Bird, do they? Least of all Mr. Bird. 56 varieties of tomato ketchup didn't take off, but this one was massive. 1869, and that was in America, wasn't it? And then we kind of, as is often the way, kind of got into it.
So very newfangled, very exciting.
Fantastic. And this, on a boiled calf's head, it just lifts the dish.
Can you imagine how derelict a Bloody Mary was before Liam Perrins?
Extraordinary. Heat magazine this week, absolutely chock-a-full of stories of Isambard Kingdom Brunel's love rat exploits. We've got Darwin's wife's had a boob job. Everyone knew about that, to be honest. It was one of Londinium's worst-kept secrets. Brilliant thing, Oliver Twist is on the television. Absolutely fabulous. I really can't wait for that. I think that's going to be cracking. Ah, look. It's Santa in a coffin, isn't it? Dead.
Dead Santa.
Very Victorian. Sad, stuffed, dead Santa in a coffin. That will go nicely next to the stuffed kittens we've got as the table display. Whee! It's Christmas. Hey, Mr. Corrin, cheer up. Whee!
We have the Victorians to thank for the Christmas we know today.
They're good, aren't they? Shane?
What do they hunt?
The 1840s saw the first appearance of the Christmas card, the cracker, and the tree.
And it's Father Christmas by Munch.
Well, it's a wizened, isn't it?
Look at him. No, but he's really seen some terrible stuff.
Prince Albert brought the German tradition to England, and when the London Illustrated News published this picture of the royal family in 1848, the trend took off.
How to put a smile on her face?
Oh, that's going to be comfy up there, isn't it?
You see, it's worth putting a stocking out. What with the new consumerism of Christmas, it means that when we put our stockings out, that something might be put in them.
I'm really, really hoping for a shoulder of mutton this year from Santa.
Bound to, only if you've been good.
I promise I will be.
The Victorian Christmas dinner was all about nostalgia and good old English fare. Like plum pudding, goose and furmity, a delicious spicy porridge.
Just before serving, in time-honoured Victorian tradition, we'll be adding a little bit of brandy.
Plum, or Christmas pudding, dates back to the 15th century, when it was served as a filling first course, not as a dessert. A steaming pud is the crowning glory of the Cratchit's table in A Christmas Carol. Dickens' 1843 bestseller appealed to the Victorian social conscience, and its sentimental celebration of the festive season is as relevant as ever in these godless commercial times.
Past, present and future, and all is said now.
Our guests are Terry Deary, historian and author of The Horrible Histories,
Because the answer could be...
actress Emma Manton, and Victorian comedy trio The Penny Dreadfuls.
What has 5 dozen keys but never opens a door?
Piano.
What is the fastest cake?
Scone. If anyone has a joke in their cracker that I haven't heard, I will give them 10 guineas.
Okay.
What sits in a fruit bowl and shouts for help?
It's a pair of distressed people.
It's a damson in distress.
Oh,
10 guineas.
So get 10 guineas.
Christmas dinner. First course, brown Windsor soup, potato croquettes, baked cod's head.
One can't help feeling there's an even richer family somewhere around the corner where they've got the actual fish.
Cod's face is delicious.
Yes, it is.
Second course, cold game pie, boiled red cabbage, roast goose and stuffing.
Goose was the bird of choice for most families until turkey took over at the end of the century. The royals, however, were scoffing on swan.
Hit breastbone yet. This is a good-looking goose. This looks like a healthy goose. This
Yeah, but you've got to feel sorry for the poor goose.
Why?
Well, it had to walk 80 miles from Norfolk down to London.
And they would sort of protect their feet, wouldn't they? They would sort of...
They would dip their feet in tar and maybe a little sand tray.
So the tar is to protect and the sand is what? To provide some grip. An early sort of trainer.
That could be.
So they would get their new little shoes on.
Yeah.
They would jolly off down to Londinium,
Yeah.
get a massive feed.
And then get knocked on the head.
Get it in the neck.
Yeah.
This giant pie is a replica of one served at Windsor Castle in 1847. It's groaning with 8 different types of game bird, ham, chicken, bacon and tongue.
You get your laughing gear.
Smells like a crypt.
Now listen, if you want another slice, just let me know. I'll save you a minute.
It's Frankenstein.
Oh, that does smell of death, doesn't it?
It really smells horrible.
Fingers. Oh, this is one of the most frightening moments of my life to date.
Can you try and keep it vertical on that?
Oh no, love. There you go. Oh, this is a...
And there's a chicken in there.
I've absolutely no idea what meat that is.
Woodcock.
Heavy.
I think it's dog.
If you reckon that 20% of meat in Victorian England was condemned, I reckon...
The whole of it was in that pie.
Well, yes.
And it was condemned in Victoria.
One condemned pie.
Go.
Oh,
nearly got it.
Very nearly, though. I've got to have another go. Pour that while I have another go. That was so much fun.
There you go.
The pagan custom of kissing under the mistletoe gave the uptight Victorians an excuse for some licensed misbehaviour.
Excellent. Right, well, I'm not playing that game anymore because there's any... But if you want to kiss any of the other boys, you can. I might go back there in a second, actually.
Third course, plum pudding, bird's custard, furmity, mince pies.
Mince pies have been a Christmas custom since the 16th century. Traditionally, they were made with spiced beef.
Now you may think, what am I doing putting actual minced meat into sweet mince meat? And that's because originally mincemeat did have precisely that in. There's some steak going into this, as well as all the things we expect to get in mincemeat. And the amazing thing is that you can't tell when you come to eat the thing. It just has a really good depth of flavour. But a bit of mincemeat does actually get included in Mrs. Beaton's recipe.
They were eaten for the 12 days of Christmas, ensuring good luck for the next 12 months.
Would you like a mince pie? They'll help you run.
Has this got beef in it?
Yes.
Oh.
We're relying on you to bring us news of it.
It's, do you know, I hate mince pies. But I very much like this one. I think the combination of beef and sultanas is a cruelly overlooked area.
I don't see that it's that dissimilar to what we have now. It's one of those, I mean, Christmas dinner is one of those times when we do just whack a load of
badly cooked meat and fatty things.
Christmas meal really you only have once a year, so there's no time for it to evolve. They've only, since the Victorian era, there have only been 130 Christmases, so you wouldn't really expect it to have evolved very much, would you?
Bravo.
It's not Victorian instead.
And then we sing hymns. Oh, little town of
Merry Christmas, one and all.
God bless everyone.
Well, that's been a voyage of discovery, that has.
Well, what a funny old bunch those Victorians were. I ended up having such fun. That Christmas dinner was fantastic. I can't tell you how lovely it is to kiss a beautiful woman with your face covered in lard. It's just all slippy and slidey. And those Victorians knew it, the dirty, dirty buggers. Really, they have this whole austerity thing going on, and there's all their stovepipe hats and their scary black clothes and the women in the corsets and the weird, funny upright bicycles. And then it comes to Christmas, and they have an 88-layered pie full of admittedly condemned meat, but fun, you know, and cod's heads and champagne corks popping, and that lush girl that I kissed, I should have gone back to her afterwards. I never did. She went home, and she couldn't get away fast enough, frankly. As Slade said, I wish it could be Christmas every day. In the last week, Sue's had 20,000 calories. She's downed 14 litres of booze and eaten countless animal heads. So she's off back to the clinic to find out what damage has been done.
Hold it very, very tightly.
Oh, that's cold.
You actually gained 2 centimetres on your waist, which is nearly an inch.
I was wearing a corset. How could it have gone into there? Look at the colour of that. That is the old amber nectar. I've not produced wee like that ever.
No, I mean, it's nothing to worry about. It's not
Could this be any more humiliating?
It's not the best.
Fat girl does dark wee.
The moment of the truth.
Ah.
You've gained 3.2 kilos. You were 55 before.
So
well done.
What's that, half a stone?
About, yes.
Oh, rocking. In 1 week?
Half a stone in a week. Fantastic.
Oh, sure you can cycle without one of those big skirts on? So it's back on the bikes to burn off the pounds. And no more Victorian snacks. Next week we're going back to the 70s. In between knocking back cocktails and gobbling our greens,
Gosh, we go.
we'll be burning calories the funky way.
Culture is.
Culture is what's going on.
See, I think everything's culture except football.
Don't know.
We may not know what it is, but he's on the new Culture Show on BBC Two next. And over on BBC Four, there's a table waiting at the biggest Chinese restaurant in the world.